What's up guys, and welcome to my first guide and video on the channel. Today I'll be walking you through my DIY go-kart frame that I made out of EMT Conduit. I'll show you the design that I came up with, why I chose to use EMT Conduit, how much it costed me, what went wrong, and ultimately why I chose to end this project early. Before we get into the full design walkthrough, I want to give you guys a quick breakdown of what this build costed me, the tools I used, and what my original goal was for the project. First off, the main frame was made out of 50 feet of 3/4 inch EMT conduit. That came out to roughly around $60. And to connect everything, I used maker pipe connectors. That ran me a little over $200. For all the nuts, bolts, and miscellaneous hardware, I spent $20. For the wheels, tires, live axle, sprockets, bearings, and more, that costed me around $600. In terms of tools, I used a drill, a saw, and clamps, all of which I already had, making the grand total that I spent $880. The goal of this whole project was to create a functional, modular go-kart using EMT Conduit, something anyone could build at home with just basic tools. And since I did not have a welder, I figured this would be the next best option. As you'll find out later, this build did not go according to plan, but all of this taught me a valuable lesson for what I needed to change in version 2. Now, if you're someone who's following along or just wants to take a deeper look at how this build came together, I've put together a free 3-page guide. It's linked in the description below. It breaks down everything I covered here, but in a more structured format, including materials, exact dimensions, tips, and even what I'd do differently if I were building this again. So if you're interested in starting your own build or just want a reference to follow as you watch, definitely check that out. With that said, let's get into the actual build. Okay, let's get started. I am placing down two 60-inch pipes, so two 5-foot long pipes, right? And at the ends, at one end, I'm gonna place a T-connector on both, okay? It's gonna go all the way through to the end of this pipe. So the end of this T-connector is gonna sit flush with the end of this pipe for both of them. And to connect the two pipes, I am gonna use a 30-inch tube, or a 30-inch pipe, sorry. After that, I'm gonna place down two more T-connectors at the opposite end. After that, I will place down two 72-inch pipes, so two 6-foot long pipes, okay? One here and one here, right? The distance, obviously, it will matter after, once you place down the two T-connectors to connect them, right? These two T-connectors, from this edge to this edge, that's 6 inches apart. So that's the reference, right? For both sides, 6 inches from here to here, okay? After that, we're going to start connecting these T-connectors, or this pipe to this pipe to this pipe, then to that pipe, right? So first, we're gonna have these two 6-inch pipes, these two, right? And to connect this pipe to this pipe, we're gonna use a 4-way connector from Maker's pipe, right? All these pipes I'm using currently are from Maker's pipe, as you can see, right? And then between here and here, we're gonna have a 8-inch piece of pipe. Now we're gonna do the back, right? We're gonna start sectioning off the back where you're gonna have your motor or your engine, and obviously your batteries if you're gonna use a electric motor, right? This is where that is all gonna be housed, okay? So to start, we're going to do this same step up front like we did here, but here, okay? We're gonna have a T-connector, another T-connector, two T-connectors, right? And from here, from this edge to that edge is gonna be 18 inches. And then we're gonna have two more 6-inch pipes connected by a 4-way connector again, and then the 8-inch pipe. Okay, after that, we're going to add a 30-inch pipe to both of these 4-way connectors. This is where you can mount your seat to it. If you decide to make your own homemade seat, right, you can drill direct holes into these pipes to connect your seat to it. Now we're gonna add one more structural support, all right? We're gonna place a T connector here and here at the midway point. And then we're gonna connect them via a 48-inch pipe. So 4-foot long pipe to connect this and this. And after that, we will start on the steering column. We're gonna place down two 10-inch pipes, this one and this one, connected with some T connectors and a 8-inch pipe again between them. So after that, we're gonna attach another T connector here, connected with a 2-inch pipe at the end. 2-inch pipe connected to that T connector, right? And then at the end of this, we're gonna attach a PVC pipe, right? So the idea here is you would have two bearings, one on this end and one on this end, on the other end. Let me see if I can get it for you. So a bearing here and a bearing here, right? Where you would then insert your steering wheel, the steering column, right? And then at the end of it, you would have your steering wheel, right? And then at this end, you would have the necessary connections to attach your tie rods to your spindles, right? To your driving spindles. So yeah, that's basically it for the frame, right? Now I'll kind of go over where I have ended up with, right? And how far I have actually progressed into my build for this. And I will also go into a little more depth of why I ended up stopping it for the time being and kind of redirecting my focuses with this build, okay? So I did have some rear pillow blocks, right? Rear pillow blocks in which I will attach a live axle to it. I don't have it on this model, but I also did have the sprocket and the brake pads here, right? And that was the plan. I did also have these pillow blocks hard mounted, or not hard mounted, bolted onto the frame, right? I'll attach a photo of it. It'll have the sprocket, everything, and the wheels attached to it, right? The back, it was not a problem. The back was working just fine. The issue that I had and came across during this build was figuring out what I wanted to do with the front, right? So for the front, I had this setup, all right, in mind, where I would attach a spindle to this and a spindle to this end. The only issue was finding a safe and a safe and sturdy way to attach it, right? What I had in mind originally was drilling a hole and hard mounting something like this to it. So essentially, you would have a hole and a hole. It would match up to this. You would bolt it onto this frame, right? And essentially, it would sit like this. The only issue was, I believe that it was gonna be too weak, right? And in terms of attaching a spindle to a pipe like this with a open hole here, I just couldn't find it safe and sturdy enough to continue with this idea, right? And yeah. Now, what I would have done differently, in this case, right, if I were to remake this frame again, is instead of having it stick out like this, I would probably just have a solid pipe. So just extend this pipe out, and I can still do this, or I can not do this, but I can drill a hole through this spindle and a hole through this tube, right? And essentially I can just bolt it on to the frame, right? I think that would be sturdier and it would be a lot stronger, right? And safer for this build that I had going on. But, you know, I was just pouring too much money into this build and it wasn't going in the right direction that I wanted, right? So for the time being, I did pull the plug on this project. However, I am not gonna just scrap this build or this frame. I'm gonna repurpose it into a racing sim, right? By the time this video has been edited and uploaded, I would have already repurposed it into a fully functioning racing sim. So if you want to see that, or if you're interested in that, make sure you like and subscribe, all right, for when I upload that video, because it will be coming out very soon. Real quick, if you want the free 3-page guide to this build with all the parts, dimensions, and extra tips, it will be linked in the description below, or you can visit nextvision.com. Thank you all for watching, and make sure you stay tuned for the next video where I turn this failed go-kart into a real and functioning racing sim. Right? As for now, that's me. I'll see you next time.